The pit stop began, as so many countless others had, for Richard Petty and his Petty Enterprises crew. Hustle down pit road, slam the car to a stop in its assigned stall, and start changing tires and adding fuel. This time, disaster struck. I didn't know Robert Callicutt back then, but the stories I would write on the turn his life took that day in Atlanta were important milestones in my own NASCAR journey. In a lot of ways, I owe Robert my career. I first met Robert Callicutt and his wife Jeannie at Atlanta in March 1990, 1 year to the weekend after his fiery accident. The following year, in 1991, I wrote a story on Robert for Dixie Racing News, and then another for Winston Cup Scene in 1992. Dixie Racing News, that was the first NASCAR story I ever had published, and the next year's piece on Robert was my first byline in Winston Cup Scene. All these years later, those two stories are the first in a portfolio I once kept. It all began on lap 257 of the Motorcraft 500.
A lot of things didn't go right. I didn't have the can quite squared up with the side of the car. It sprayed some gas out on me, and but what it was a header. Something was wrong with the engine, and it backfired, and it blew a ball of fire out the header pipes. And of course, the pipes at that time would run out the driver's side on the driver's side of the car, so they were just right, beside on me, just a foot from me. So just all the wrong circumstances come together at the right time. So, and it just went up in a ball of fire, and I remember thinking, I've got to get rid of this can of gas on my shoulder. So I threw it out on the pit road to try to get it away from the fire, away from where I was at, and away from the rest of the crew, car, and everything. And luckily the can didn't catch on fire. It didn't explode or anything. But we had a fairly significant fire.
Robert still has the fire suit he was wearing that day in a showcase in his shop. To see its darkened torso still imprinted with the charred remains from the cord of his radio set is jolting. The instant the fire broke out, a lot of wheels started churning into motion. Jeannie was back home in North Carolina, and there were several offers to help get her to her husband's side in Georgia. Robert wound up in the Humana Burn Center in Augusta, Georgia for 33 days.
I was fairly aware of everything that was going on. It was every day, you went to, they put you in whirlpools to get dead skin off, and of course all your grafts were stapled on, and then they're taking the staples out, and they're doing more grafts. So they're pretty well on you all the time. But I pretty well remember. I remember everything pretty well. I was on a lot of morphine, but I still pretty well knew what was going on.
Afterward, there were more therapy sessions than either Robert or Jeannie could ever count. Robert eventually returned to Richard Petty's crew as a pit scorer, but fueling the car, no. The memories were still too raw and too real.
It took 2 or 3 years to get past the fear of fire.
Yeah.
I didn't even like fire in the fireplace, or I was terrified of the gas logs. We had fire extinguishers here at our business and our homes. You weren't more than 20 feet from a fire extinguisher anywhere you were at. We ought to have been stock in the fire extinguisher company, because we put fire extinguishers everywhere. It made me a lot more conscious of that. It took me a few years to get over it.
There's meeting a problem head on, and then there's getting past his fear of fire the way that Robert Callicutt did. He joined his local volunteer fire department.
I actually just joined. I've been a volunteer fireman now for years, and I'll have to say I've not been in a lot of burning houses, but I have been in some in training fires. And first one, I mean, my wife was terrified, and I was too. But I said it's something I got to do. I've got to get past this mental block that I've got about fire. I said I've got to go in, and I've got to get past it, and it helped me. And I'm not, I don't have that fear anymore.
Robert's accident had a sobering effect on pit road safety. There were gas men here and there who wore fire suits beforehand, but afterward, teams woke up and paid attention to what could happen. Gone forever were the days when cars were refueled by men in short-sleeved shirts and slacks. Amen.